You know, Alex, there is a specific kind of quiet desperation that sets in when you realize your lawnmower is sharing a bedroom with your table saw. It's that moment when you're shimmying sideways through the garage like a high stakes burglar just to reach a screwdriver.
Is that why I had to park 3 blocks away? Because your shop has officially staged a coup and reclaimed the driveway?
It's an occupation, not a coup. But it's exactly why we're talking about sheds today. I've spent the last 3 weeks elbow deep in pressure treated lumber and permit paperwork trying to build a sanctuary for the heavy stuff. And let me tell you, there's a massive difference between putting up a box and actually constructing an outbuilding that won't look like a parallelogram after the first heavy snow.
I'm glad you mentioned the parallelogram thing because every time I see a DIY shed in a neighbor's yard, it's leaning like it's had one too many at the local pub. So, for those of us who don't want a slouching shed, where do we actually start? Is it the wood or is it the law?
It's always the law, unfortunately. Before you even think about the smell of cedar, you've got to dance with the city planners. Most places have this magic number, usually around 120 square feet. You stay under that and you're an accessory structure. You go over and suddenly you're in a committed relationship with the building inspector.
And I'm guessing accessory structure is code for less paperwork?
Exactly. My latest build is a classic 8x8. It sounds small, but if you're clever with the math, it's the sweet spot. You aren't cutting 10-foot boards down and throwing 2 feet of expensive grain into the scrap pile. Everything in the lumberyard comes in 8s, 10s, and 12s. An 8-foot cube is basically the universe telling you it wants to be a shed.
Okay, so we've got the size, but I've seen you staring at your backyard for 45 minutes straight with a look of pure agony. What's the location secret for a shed?
Nature hates a 90-degree angle, Alex. My yard has a slope that doesn't look like much until you try to set a level on it. Then you realize you're basically building on the side of the Alps. The temptation is to find the lowest spot so the shed doesn't block the view. But that's how you end up with an indoor swimming pool for your rakes. Water is the enemy. It's the slow motion termite.
So don't build in a bowl. Got it. But if the ground is wonky, do I have to rent a bulldozer and flatten the earth?
You can if you want your neighbors to hate you by 7 o'clock a.m. But I prefer the post and pier method for sloped ground. You use those heavy concrete deck blocks or pour some footings, and you use different heights of 4x4 posts to find level above the grass. It lets the air whistle underneath the floor joists. Dry wood is happy wood.
Happy wood. You're one step away from painting happy little trees on the siding. But seriously, once you've got these piers floating in the air, how do you make sure the floor doesn't feel like a trampoline when you walk on it?
This is where people get stingy, and it haunts them. For a shop floor, especially if you're putting a cast iron bandsaw or a heavy riding mower in there, you want 2x6 pressure treated joists, and don't space them 24 inches apart. Go 12 or 16 inches on center. If the floor has even a millimeter of give, every time you walk across it, your precision tools are going to feel it. It's the difference between a foundation and a stage.
And the actual floorboards? I've seen people use that thin plywood that looks like it's made of compressed cereal.
Oh, may the gods of carpentry protect them. No, you want 23-second tongue and groove, OSB, or plywood. That tongue and groove part is essential. It locks the sheets together so the edges don't curl up like an old sandwich. If you use the thin stuff, your first step into the shed will be your last step through the floor.
All right, let's talk walls. I've watched those 24-hour shed builds on YouTube where they just nail a frame together on the ground and pop it up. It looks suspiciously easy. What could possibly go wrong?
Everything. Timing is everything. I once framed a whole 10-foot wall, got it perfectly plumb, nailed it home, and then realized I'd framed the door opening on the wrong side. I spent the next 2 hours with a pry bar, essentially undoing my own existence.
See, that's the tiger I know, the man who builds a door for a wall that faces a fence 3 inches away.
It was a very well-built mistake. But the real trick to walls is the top plate. Use a double top plate. It ties the whole structure together and gives your roof rafters something beefy to bite into. And for the love of all that is holy, check for square by measuring the diagonals. If the two diagonal measurements aren't identical, you aren't building a shed, you're building a trapezoid.
Building a trapezoid should be the subtitle of your memoir. Now, what about the roof? That seems like the part where things get dangerous.
The roof is where the geometry final exam you failed in high school comes back to haunt you. A simple gable roof, that classic A shape, is the most forgiving. But even then, cutting rafters is an art. You've got the bird's mouth cut. That's the little notch where the rafter sits on the wall. If you cut that too deep, you weaken the tail. If it's too shallow, the roof sits wonky.
Is there a cheat code for the roof, or are we stuck doing trigonometry in the sun?
There's no cheat code for gravity, but there are rafter squares. They have the scales built right into the metal. You just need to know your rise and run. For a shed, a 4 and 12 pitch is usually enough to shed the rain without making the building 10 feet tall. And don't skimp on the overhang. Give it 6 to 12 inches of eaves. It keeps the rain from crying down your siding and rotting your sills.
We've got a floor, walls, and a roof. But if we leave it like that, it's just a very expensive birdcage. Let's talk about making it actually cozy. The stuff people are doing now where sheds are becoming she sheds, or man caves, or, in your case, a tiger den.
Cozy is a luxury, but dryness is a necessity. Before the pretty stuff, you need a house wrap. That's the moisture barrier. It's like a rain jacket for your studs. Then comes the siding. I'm a sucker for T111 or cedar lap siding. It smells like a forest, and if you treat it right, it'll outlast you.
And windows? I feel like sheds are usually these dark, cobwebby dungeons.
Precisely. I put 2 windows in mine, one on the south side for that soul-warming winter light, and one on the north for a cross breeze. But here's the pro move. Window headers. You can't just cut a hole in a wall and stick a window in. You need a header, a horizontal beam, to carry the weight of the roof over that hole. Otherwise, a year from now, the weight of the snow will crush that window frame and you'll never get it open again.
I'm starting to think building a shed is just a series of ways to prevent future tiger from being angry at past tiger.
That is the most accurate definition of craftsmanship I have ever heard.
So, what's the final tally? Our source said they did an 8x8 for about $1,200 back in 2015. With the way wood prices behave these days, like they're made of solid gold, is this still a budget project?
It's more of an investment now. You're probably looking at $1,800 to $2,500 for quality materials today. But think about it. You're adding square footage to your life. You're gaining a place where you can make a mess, leave a project half finished, and close the door on the chaos of the world. That's worth more than the lumber.
It sounds like you're saying a shed isn't just for the lawnmower.
The mower is just the excuse we give our spouses. The shed is for the soul. It's the only place where the sawdust belongs to you.
Well, before you get too poetic, I think I heard your soul making a weird rattling noise in the garage.
That would be the air compressor. It's telling me it's time to go to work.
Fair enough. If you're planning your own backyard build, remember, calculate your diagonals, respect the slope, and for heaven's sake, check your local permits before you start digging.
And don't forget the overhangs. Nothing rots a dream faster than a leaky roof. Take your time, buy an extra box of nails, you'll drop half of them in the grass anyway, and enjoy the process of making something that stands straight.
See you in the shop, Tiger.
I'll be the one covered in sawdust and regret about my door placement.